3 a.m., the hour when the store goes completely still. My name is Reed. I've been the overnight inventory auditor at a Walmart in Des Moines, Iowa for the past 11 months. Most nights are just that, nights. Long, fluorescent, echoing with the hum of ceiling lights and the occasional beep from a forgotten register. I clock in at 10 p.m. sharp, scan the aisles, compare shipments with the manifest, note discrepancies, file them before 4 a.m. It's methodical, quiet, mostly solitary. You hear the buzzing of the lights before you even step in. That buzz stays with you. It's in your ears even after your shift ends. We don't talk much during the night shift, not unless we have to. It's not a rule, just something you pick up over time. Words don't sit right under this kind of lighting. They feel louder than they should. I usually start near the back. Seasonal items first. Right now it's school supplies. Halloween's on its way though. I've seen the orange crates stacked in receiving, but last Sunday, something felt off the moment I walked in. The temperature was wrong. The store is always kept cold to preserve perishables and keep people alert. But that night, it felt warm, not comfortable, humid. Like the air had been sitting still for hours with no circulation. It smelled faintly of cardboard and something else, something sour. I made my way past the registers, past aisles 1 through 10. Nothing out of place. That's when I noticed the flicker. Aisle 13. The light above it kept twitching, faint, barely noticeable. You'd miss it if you weren't looking directly at it. But I saw it, and I stopped walking. Aisle 13 isn't anyone's favorite. No one talks about it, but we all know. Electronics on one side, home cleaning supplies on the other. A weird mix. One of the older employees, Marcy, once said, "Things linger in aisle 13. I laughed it off. Until last Sunday. We have these rules. Not company policy, not written down. They're passed around during your first few weeks, usually when something weird has already happened. Like a casual warning wrapped in a joke. Rule number 1, don't look at the TVs after 2 a.m. If they're on, ignore them. Rule number 2, if you hear knocking from the freezer section, don't open it. Rule number 3, don't take inventory of pet food after midnight. Just don't. And then there's rule number 4. If you see the light flickering over aisle 13, skip it. Come back later. I'd followed the rules, always. But that night, I was behind schedule. Receiving had mislabeled an entire pallet. I needed to make up time. I walked toward aisle 13. The flickering grew steady the closer I got. Not faster, just more rhythmic, like a slow, artificial pulse. And as I turned into the aisle, the light buzzed louder. It wasn't just the bulb, it was something behind it, like static, like something watching from above the ceiling tiles. Everything looked normal at first. Clorox bottles, HDMI cables, dustpans, all in place. But there was a cart in the middle of the aisle, half unloaded. That was odd. No one should have been there yet. Stocking doesn't begin until after 3:30. The wheels had left drag marks, long, shallow lines like someone had pushed it with one hand, distracted. I checked my scanner. The tag on the cart wasn't registered in the system yet. Then I heard it. A soft shuffle. 2 shelves down, like someone shifting their weight. I froze. You learn to recognize sounds in this place. Footsteps are easy. So are rolling carts. But this wasn't footsteps. It was like plastic brushing against metal, like someone trying to stay silent, but not quite managing. I called out, quiet but clear. "Hey, stocking doesn't start till later." No answer. Just the flicker, and that buzz. I took 1 step forward. The overhead light went out, completely. The rest of the aisle remained lit. Only the center, where I stood, was dark. That's when I remembered rule number 4. Skip the aisle. Come back later. I should have listened. Because what I saw next, I can't explain. And I don't think I was supposed to see it. Everything was in place, which made what happened next even harder to explain. I didn't move. For maybe 10 seconds, I just stood there. In the dark center of aisle 13, surrounded by shelves, holding my scanner like it was going to protect me from something I didn't even understand. The flickering stopped. The light didn't return. It wasn't just out, it was gone. Like the bulb itself had been removed, wires dangling. But when I looked up, I couldn't see the ceiling. Just black. I backed up slowly. Each step I took toward the brighter part of the aisle made the air feel lighter, like whatever pressure had dropped into that space was lifting, inch by inch. When I finally stepped out into the main corridor again, I looked back, and the light above aisle 13 was on. Steady, normal, as if nothing had happened. I didn't go back. Instead, I made a slow circle toward aisle 7. I needed to recalibrate, catch my breath. It's where we keep toys and some sporting goods. It's quieter, wider aisles, fewer shadows. That's when I heard it again. A shuffle, then a pause, then what sounded like a deep breath, but not mine. It came from behind the shelf. Aisle 7 connects directly with 6 and 8, two parallel lanes with similar merchandise. But there's a hollow between the shelves where employees sometimes cut through, especially if we're trying to avoid walking the full stretch. I crouched slightly and leaned toward the space. There was a gap, just enough to glimpse through. I expected to see someone, maybe one of the overnight crew, maybe Marcy, who sometimes reorganized out of habit. But there was no one, just a faint imprint on the floor, like someone had been kneeling there for a long time. A greasy stain, shaped like elbows and knees, and something else. Long scratch marks on the polished tiles, uneven, as if dragged by fingertips. My scanner beeped out of nowhere. A notification, inventory inconsistency in the next aisle. I swear I didn't press anything. I stood up. The store was dead quiet again. Even the HVAC system sounded distant. That's when I noticed the overhead speaker, the one in that part of the store, had a red light blinking. It usually stays off, unless it's live. But there was no sound. I backed away, slowly, and turned down the main lane toward electronics. Aisle 10 was ahead, and aisle 13 right after that. Something wasn't right. I passed a display of off-brand tablets. Their screens were on, black, but lit. They don't stay on unless you wake them. But these were all activated, screen brightness low, as if someone had touched every single one of them minutes ago. I walked past quickly, not looking at the reflection. That's when I heard the intercom, just once. Not the usual chime, just static, sharp and brief, and underneath it, a click, like someone pressing a microphone but not speaking. A breath, then silence again. I stopped in front of the security desk. We have a basic monitor set up there. Not even full feeds, just snapshots from key aisles, rotating every few seconds. I watched them cycle. Aisle 1, receiving dock, frozen goods, main entrance, then aisle 7. There was something there, not a person, not exactly, just a shape, a dark vertical blur, maybe 6 feet tall, standing between two shelves. Its outline didn't make sense, no limbs, no detail, just the rough suggestion of a figure. Then it was gone. The feed rotated to aisle 8, empty. I waited, 2 full cycles. Nothing reappeared. I saved the snapshot. The system allows temporary archive for internal notes. The image wouldn't save. Instead, the screen flashed, then went black, then returned to the main menu. I looked behind me. Nothing. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my ribs started to ache. You get used to long nights, empty space, echoes, the occasional weird noise from the pipes. But this wasn't that. This was presence. I decided to check the break room. I needed light. People. Even if it was just Mark, the guy who sleeps through half his shift. When I reached the door, it was open an inch. That door always shuts fully. There's a spring hinge. You have to stop it with your foot if you want it ajar. I pushed it open slowly. The lights were off. No sound inside. Microwave clock was blinking. 8888. That only happens during a full power reset. But I'd seen no flicker anywhere else. I stepped in and saw the vending machine light was off, but I could still see my reflection. The glass was catching light from somewhere that didn't exist in the room. Behind me, the door clicked shut, soft, like someone pressed it gently from the other side. I turned quickly. Nothing there. I opened it again, looked both ways. Still empty. I stood in the break room, hands on the table, trying to steady myself, trying to remember why I ever took this job in the first place. Then I heard it again. The same shuffle, from the hallway. But this time, It wasn't moving away. It was coming closer. I stepped out of the break room, slowly. The shuffle had stopped. The hallway outside was empty. Lights humming above, faint reflections on the polished floor. But the silence felt tight, like it was waiting for me to make the next move. I walked back toward the security desk. Not because I thought I'd find answers, but because I needed to see something familiar. A screen, a timeline, anything that made sense. The monitors were still cycling, one every 6 seconds. Aisle 1, Aisle 2, self-checkout. Back to Aisle 7, still empty. But the timestamp caught my eye. It was off, 3 minutes slow. I checked my scanner, 3:18 a.m. The feed said 3:15. That might not sound like much, but these systems update together. They're synced every night at 2:45. If one slips, they all do. But the others were fine. Only the feed for Aisle 7 lagged behind. I rewound the footage 10 minutes. Looked at the moment I thought I saw the figure. Frame by frame. At 3:05, nothing. Just empty shelves. 3:06, the feed flickered. 3:07, there it was. A brief silhouette. Just one frame. No movement. Just there. It wasn't standing. It was leaning. Bent. Like it had unfolded from inside the shelf. The next frame. Empty again. I tried to pause. Save the image. The button clicked. Loading bar. Then static. All cameras reset at once. The feed returned to the main menu. No archives available. I ran a quick system diagnostic. All clear. No interference. No missing packets. Nothing wrong. Except what I saw wasn't there anymore. I sat down. Let the chair creak under me. The hum of the monitors seemed louder than before, like they were covering something else up, like I wasn't supposed to notice. Then the printer activated. We have a thermal receipt printer behind the desk, used for quick logs. It spat out a slip of paper. I hadn't pressed anything. I picked it up. Black strip, no text. Just one number. 13, no aisle. No timestamp. Just the number. I folded it into my pocket. Didn't throw it away. That's when I saw movement again. This time, in real time. Aisle 12. Left monitor. A cart rolled halfway into view. No one pushing it. It stopped. Wheels turned slightly. Then the screen went black again. This wasn't just a glitch. I've worked with enough systems to know when a feed drops. This was deliberate. Targeted. I stood up. Moved to the side of the monitors. Waited. Listened. Far off, I heard it again. Plastic against tile. Rubber wheels. But it wasn't coming from aisle 12. It was closer. And this time, it wasn't just rolling. It was dragging. Slow. Heavy. Like something was inside the cart. I backed into the corner of the security desk. Not out of fear. Not yet. But because every part of my body was telling me I shouldn't be in the open. I stared at the hallway. Waited for something to appear. Nothing did. The sound stopped. No echo. No cart. Just the low, static hum of the store returning to its unnatural calm. I walked fast, but quiet, toward the break room again. The lights overhead flickered once, just once, a pulse, like a breath being held and released. When I reached the break room door, it was shut. Firmly, I hadn't closed it. I put my hand on the handle and pushed. It opened slow, heavier than before, like the air inside was thicker. The lights were off again. Microwave still blinking 8888. No sign of life, but someone was sitting at the table. It was Mark, or at least it looked like Mark. His back was to me. Uniform wrinkled, head tilted down like he was staring into his lap. Mark? No response. I stepped in slowly. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Like the sound had been sucked out from the walls. I tried again. You all right, man? He didn't move. I circled around, carefully, staying to the far side of the table. When I saw his face, my mouth went dry. His eyes were open, but they weren't focused. They were staring straight through me, mouth slightly parted, not breathing. And there was something wrong with his skin, grayish, damp, like he'd been sitting in a walk-in freezer for hours. But the break room was warm. I reached out, hesitated, then touched his shoulder. Cold, solid, but he didn't react. Then, just as I started to pull back, his lips moved. Barely. He whispered something. 4 words. It followed me in. Then he blinked. Slowly. Looked at me. like he was waking up from something deep. He stood without saying a word, walked out past me, eyes forward, movements mechanical. I didn't stop him. I watched him walk down the hall, turn the corner, and vanish. I stood there, hand still hovering where his shoulder had been. I looked down at the chair. It was wet, like he'd been sitting in rain, but my shoes were dry. That's when I noticed the break room clock. Not the microwave, the analog one on the wall. It was ticking backward. Tick, tick, tick. 2:59 a.m., 2:58, 2:57. I left the room. Whatever was happening in there, it wasn't done with me, but I wasn't going to wait for it to finish. The hallway outside felt colder. Not cooler, colder, like walking out into fog. My skin prickled. I turned toward the stock floor again. Tried to focus on routine, inventory, scanning, anything that would let me pretend this night wasn't coming undone. As I passed aisle 6, I heard the intercom click. That soft little pop before a voice speaks. But it didn't speak. Not at first. Just static. Then it said my name. Low, drawn out. Reed! I stopped. Completely. No one knew I was here. Not tonight. Mark wouldn't have used the system. And no one else was scheduled until 4 a.m. I looked up at the speaker. No light. No sign it was active. But the sound had come from it. Clearly. Then again. This time softer. A whisper. Come back. I took a step back. One foot, then the other. The speaker let out another burst of static. Then silence. I backed into aisle 5. Waited. Listened. I didn't want to run. Not yet. Running made things real. Running meant accepting that something in here was watching me. Then every intercom speaker in the store clicked on at once. Pop, pop, pop. Everywhere. No voices. Just silence. That was worse. The sound of waiting. I bolted back to the security desk. Not thinking. Just moving. The monitors were all frozen. Each one stuck on the same frame. The entrance. Aisle 13 in the background. But the entrance was open. That door is locked at night. Always. It takes a key from management. And someone was standing just outside. Not moving. Not facing the door. Facing the camera. Looking straight at me. I didn't move. The man, or whatever that was, didn't either. He stood outside the entrance, motionless, grainy in the frozen frame of the camera. No movement, no blinking. Just watching. Not the door. Not the building. The lens. Me. I powered the monitors off. I couldn't look at it anymore. Not like that. That kind of stillness doesn't belong to people. I needed to reset. Needed to get out of the corner of my mind where all of this was starting to make sense. So I did something stupid. I grabbed my scanner, turned around, and walked back toward the main floor. My steps echoed through the corridors. Too sharp. Like the store had emptied itself of sound, waiting to hear only mine. The lights above me buzzed low and constant. Same as always. Same pitch, same color. But the shadows, they were wrong. Longer, slower to respond when I moved. When I reached aisle 12, I paused. Rule 4 is about aisle 13. No one had ever said anything about 12, but that silence, that unspoken gap, felt heavier now, like we'd skipped a rule no one wanted to name. I turned in, 1 foot first. The rubber tile floor gave a soft squeak beneath me. The shelves were lined with detergent, bleach, multi-purpose cleaners. The whole aisle smelled like ammonia and lemon. But underneath that, something else. Something faintly coppery, like blood dried into cardboard. There was a cart sitting halfway down, half unloaded again. Boxes of dryer sheets open, one ripped across the top like it had been clawed, not cut. I looked down. There were footprints, not shoe prints. Bare feet, long toes, smeared across the polished floor like someone had walked through something wet. The prints trailed down the aisle and stopped behind a shelf. No exit, no side passage, just a shelf. I stood there, listened. Then I heard it. A breath. Not mine. Deep, drawn in slow, held, and exhaled so quietly I might have missed it if I hadn't been dead silent myself. It came from the far end of the aisle, behind the detergent shelf. I moved forward, slowly. My scanner buzzed. Random inventory tag triggered. I looked down. but the screen was black. No product number, just a blinking cursor. It was waiting for something. I turned off the scanner, slid it into my pocket. Then I did the second stupid thing that night. I spoke. "Is someone back there?" No answer. Not at first. Then something shifted. A shadow, just at the edge of the shelf. Not crossing, just changing shape, like someone repositioning themselves without sound. I took one step forward. A hand slid into view. Long fingers. Too long. Pale. Palms down on the tile like it was ready to crawl forward instead of walk. Then it pulled back. Fast. Like it hadn't meant to be seen. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And then the lights above aisle 12 began to blink, one by one, starting from the front, each buzzing out in sequence toward the back. Tick, tick, tick. Darkness creeping closer. The hand reappeared, this time lower, almost flat against the ground. It wasn't hiding now. I turned and left, walked fast, didn't run. Running meant panic. Panic made noise, and noise attracts things you don't want to see the shape of. Back in the main corridor, the lights were steady, normal. I looked back once. Aisle 12 was completely dark, but the air around it still flickered, like the shadows themselves hadn't decided what shape to take yet. Whatever was in there, it wasn't gone. It was waiting, just like everything else in this store tonight. I didn't go near aisle 12 for the rest of the night. Instead, I sat behind the pallets near the stockroom entrance, between tall stacks of paper towel bundles and wrapped crates of bottled water. It felt safer there, like something heavy couldn't reach me if I was surrounded by plastic and shrink wrap. That's where I started remembering things I hadn't paid attention to before. There used to be an old janitor who worked this shift. Name was Cal, short guy, white beard, always wore an old Iowa State cap even though management told him not to. He retired a few months ago. Quiet exit, no party, no goodbyes. Just stopped showing up. But he used to say things, quiet things. Warnings, really. But he made them sound like jokes. He called them Sunday night specials. Said, "Store changes shape after midnight Sunday. You just don't notice till it's too late." I laughed it off. We all did. Then there was the other thing he said. Every store's got dead space. Places that don't map right, don't light right. Most folks just walk past. Some folks stop, and those don't come back the same. We figured he was just tired, old, maybe a little off. But tonight, I understood. Cal never walked down aisle 13, ever. Not once in 11 months did I see him turn down that row. He'd mop right up to the edge, then back away like it burned his skin. One night, I asked him about it. We were both sitting outside the employee entrance, on a smoke break neither of us was supposed to be taking. He had that same Iowa State cap pulled low over his eyes. I said, "You really believe in that aisle stuff?" He took a long drag, exhaled slow. Then he said, "You ever hear your name on the intercom when no one's around?" I didn't answer. He continued, "You ever see a customer after hours? Real late? Walking like they forgot they're not supposed to be here?" I shrugged. Thought he was messing with me. He looked at me, real serious. "Don't follow them. Doesn't matter where they're going. Doesn't matter if they look scared. They're not for you. They're for something else." I asked him what he meant. He just shook his head. "Sunday nights are thresholds. You ever feel like time doubles back on itself? Like you've done a thing already but don't remember how? That's the store talking. Don't talk back." I never brought it up again. But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. Especially when I noticed something scratched into the side of a shelf near where I was sitting. Under the bottom rung of a pallet. Faint. Almost invisible. It just said, "Don't answer if it says your name." I didn't recognize the handwriting, but it looked like it had been carved with a box cutter. I stood up, felt dizzy, like my head was half a second behind my body. Everything felt out of step. The lights above the stockroom were on full brightness, but they flickered when I passed under them, like my shadow moved too slow. I turned toward the hallway again. The break room door was wide open now. Inside, the chair Mark had sat in was gone. Not moved, gone. And on the wall behind it, in thick black permanent marker, someone had drawn a rectangle, a doorway. with a smaller door inside it. Then underneath it, 3 words: "Watch the copy." I didn't know what that meant, but the intercom clicked again. One speaker this time, just above the break room, and the same voice, the one that had whispered my name, said it again. "Reed." Only this time, it added something else. "He's not gone." I didn't respond. I didn't even look at the speaker. I just stood there, staring into the break room, trying to understand how a chair could disappear without sound, without trace. That room had no windows, no vent large enough to pull it through, nothing that could explain its absence. But it was gone, and that drawing on the wall, that crude doorway sketched in permanent marker, it didn't feel like a prank. It felt like a map. I stepped back into the hallway, closed the break room door gently behind me. The second it latched, the lights above me went out. Not just one, all of them. Total black. No buzz. No emergency glow. The only light came from the flickering red indicator near the fire exit at the end of the corridor. I stood still, tried not to breathe too loud. The darkness pressed in, thick and slow, like the air had weight now. Then I heard something, soft, far end of the hall. Metal hinges shifting, a latch turning, a door opening. I moved forward, one hand along the wall. Each step I took made the darkness feel deeper, not darker, just more aware, like it was pulling itself closer, watching. I reached the end of the corridor. The fire exit was open, just slightly. It shouldn't be. That door is wired into the alarm system. If it opens after hours, it sets off a store-wide signal. There was no alarm, no sirens, just that red light blinking quietly. I looked outside, but what I saw wasn't the parking lot. It was aisle tile, that same waxed floor, that same blue stripe running along the edge. It looked like another hallway, identical to the one I was standing in. Same dimensions, same linoleum, same humming fixtures on the ceiling, except it was empty, completely empty. No carts, no pallets, no trash bins, not even dust. And further down that hall, a flickering light above a sign that read, Aisle 13. But aisle 13 wasn't near this part of the store. It was on the other side. I shut the door, but it didn't click shut. It kept swinging slightly open, as if being pulled gently from the other side. I turned away. The hallway behind me was still dark, but I could make out faint illumination from the main floor. That's when I saw the reflection. On the glass of the nearby electronics case, a shape behind me. I turned fast. No one there. Just the fire exit door still ajar. The red light above it now completely off. Then the intercom popped again. Only this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was static, loud, violent, like a scream without voice. Then silence. Then footsteps, fast, coming from the other side of the fire exit, not running, staggering. I backed away, heart hammering in my throat. The door opened wider, slow and deliberate. I caught a glimpse, not of a person, but of something wearing the shape of one. Tall, slumped, clothes that looked like mine, movements just a little too late to match the sound of the steps, like watching someone lip-sync breathing. I turned and ran. Didn't think, didn't stop. My legs moved before my brain caught up. When I reached the main floor again, the lights above the aisles were on, but dimmer, like someone had turned the entire store's brightness down by 20%. The shadows were longer again, and in the silence, I heard one sound. From across the building, the soft creak of wheels, a cart, being pushed, but not on rubber, dragged, slowly, right toward me. I kept moving, didn't look back. The cart wheels echoed faintly, a soft, rolling screech, just enough to let me know it was still there, still coming, slowly, like it had all the time in the world. I ducked behind the health and beauty displays near the pharmacy. Everything smelled like cheap lotion and expired shampoo. I crouched low, near the floor, between a rack of off-brand razors and a cardboard display for mouthwash. That's when I remembered something else. Back when I first started, there was an onboarding packet. Basic stuff, policies, safety procedures, emergency protocols. But inside, stapled to the back of mine, was a loose sheet. Not official, just a printout, no letterhead, no signature, titled Notes for Sunday Overnights. Most of it was vague, rambling. Don't count anything after 2:45 a.m. Do not reset freezer temp manually. Avoid speaking to late customers. They're not looking for help. If the exit signs blink more than once, walk away, and one line scribbled by hand in the margin. Don't break Rule 4, especially not on Sunday. I remember reading it, not thinking twice. It sounded like nonsense. Now it sounded like prophecy, because I had broken Rule 4. I'd walked into aisle 13 when the light was flickering on a Sunday night, and I'd stayed. I don't know what the consequences are supposed to be, but I know they've already started. That cart following me? It's not someone stalking. I saw what was behind it, and it saw me. My scanner beeped again. I hadn't touched it. The screen was back on, black background, white text blinking slowly. Return to aisle 13. I turned it off, pulled the battery, stuffed it deep into my jacket pocket. A chill ran down my arms, not from the air, from something else, something internal. Like the store itself had placed a hand on my shoulder and was guiding me backward. I checked my phone. No signal, no time, just a dead screen. Even the battery icon was gone. And then I noticed something else. The store layout had changed. I was near aisle 6 when I crouched. But now, looking down the row, I saw signage for automotive. That should have been 3 aisles over. I stood carefully, walked to the end of the aisle, looked left. No front end, no registers, just rows, aisle after aisle. All of them labeled 13. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Still there. Every single hanging sign in every direction read the same number, white on blue, 13. Some of them were upside down. I backed away, slowly, until my shoulder hit something solid. It was a mirror, freestanding, display model, for some off-brand bathroom decor line. I turned toward it, but the reflection didn't make sense. My body was there, but I wasn't facing the same way. My mirrored self stood still, hands at its sides, eyes fixed forward, watching me, but not mimicking me. Then it moved, lifted one arm, pointed behind me. I turned. Empty aisle, but the lights above it flickered once, then again. Slow, rhythmic. I didn't need to read the sign. I already knew. Aisle 13. I didn't step forward, not right away. The aisle was lit now, perfectly lit. No flicker, no shadows, just a long, sterile tunnel of white light framed by shelves stocked too neatly. But the air felt wrong, still, like something was holding its breath. I took one step, then another. The light didn't change, but the floor did. It wasn't the usual tile. It looked the same at first. Pale, waxed, industrial, but it didn't sound the same. My steps didn't echo. They didn't squeak. They didn't register at all. It was like walking on memory foam that didn't remember anything. The further I went, the more symmetrical everything looked. Too perfect. Each shelf mirrored the one opposite. Same products, same boxes, same scratches, same dust. Copy and paste, over and over. And then I looked up. There was a camera at the center of the aisle ceiling. It wasn't ours. Black dome, no blinking light, no wires. But I felt it lock onto me the moment I noticed it. There was no hum, no movement, but it was watching. I turned slowly, checked both ends of the aisle. Now both exits looked the same. No signs, no wall fixtures, just identical openings leading into the same impossible repetition. I tried walking back. 10 steps. The end didn't get closer. I turned around, walked the other way. Same result. I was still inside aisle 13, still being watched. I stood in place, closed my eyes, tried to focus. And that's when I heard the camera move. Not quietly. It twisted hard, plastic grinding, like it hadn't turned in years. It followed me. I could feel the weight of its gaze realign. I opened my eyes. Now there were 2 cameras. Same model, same position, one on each end of the aisle. They hadn't been there before. I turned around again. Now 4, then 6. They were multiplying. I started walking. Faster. Shelves stretched longer with each step. I checked my reflection in the metal edge of a shelf. My face looked pale, drawn, eyes sunken like I hadn't slept in days. But something was wrong with the reflection. My mouth was moving. I wasn't speaking, but my reflection was. I leaned in, close. It mouthed 4 words. "It sees through you." I stepped back fast. The lights overhead buzzed, not flickered, just let out a low, rattling hum, like something huge vibrating through the ceiling. Then the cameras blinked, all of them. A pulse of red, like pupils dilating. I ran. Didn't care which way, just forward. The aisle stretched, then suddenly dropped me into darkness. I hit cold tile, hard, looked up. I wasn't in aisle 13 anymore. I was back by the break room. Only now, all the lights were off. No hum, no cameras, just one sound. From behind the door I'd closed earlier. A soft knock, then another. 3 knocks, then silence. Then the intercom buzzed to life. Not static this time. A voice. One I didn't recognize. It said, "You were never meant to look back." I didn't answer the intercom. I didn't move. That voice, flat, detached, unfamiliar, wasn't asking for anything. It was confirming something. That I'd seen too much, and that now it had seen me. I backed away from the break room door, quietly. Each step felt deliberate, like my body was negotiating with the floor for permission to move. The knock didn't come again, but I knew it hadn't left. It was still behind that door, or beneath it, or in it. I turned down the adjacent corridor, toward the emergency ladder that led to the ceiling crawl space above receiving. It wasn't part of my route, but I needed elevation, distance, perspective. The ladder was metal, cold, covered in dust from years of disuse. I climbed slowly, listening. At the top, I pulled open the access hatch and hoisted myself up. The air was hot up there, thicker, like breathing through a towel. The crawl space ran above the aisles, hidden by the false ceiling tiles. Ductwork, wiring, old crates of signage, forgotten seasonal displays, and one old camera control box. Rusted, disconnected. I sat beside it, wiped sweat from my face, and looked through a small square of open vent directly below. It pointed down, aisle 13. Again, but this time there was something in it. Not walking, not standing, just there, crouched low, facing away. It looked human, mostly, legs bent the wrong way, spine too high, like it had been stretched. And then slowly it turned its head, not toward the shelves, but upward, directly toward the vent I was watching through. It didn't have a face, just a blank shape, skin pulled flat where features should be. But even without eyes, I knew it was looking at me. And worse, I knew it knew I was looking back. It stood, not in one motion, in pieces. First the spine straightened, then the arms retracted, then the head tilted side to side like it was calibrating gravity. It didn't move toward the front of the aisle. It moved toward the ceiling. I scrambled back, fast, hit my head on a beam, nearly dropped my scanner. The crawl space creaked beneath my weight. Then I heard it, above me, crawling. It had followed the sound. I moved, low to the ground, toward the hatch. The wood groaned behind me. The metal frame of the vent tore loose. I jumped, hit the floor hard, rolled, gasped for air. The ceiling tiles above aisle 13 shifted, but nothing came through. It didn't need to, because now it knew I saw it, knew I understood it wasn't just a thing in a place. It was a place itself, watching, learning, and I had confirmed something I never should have proven, that I was aware, and now I could feel it everywhere. Not just in aisle 13, in the wires, in the lights, in the silence that fell between sounds. Whatever it isn't hiding anymore, because it knows I see it. And worse, it sees that I'm trying not to be afraid. I stumbled through receiving. The fall from the crawl space left my leg aching, but not broken. I limped past the loading dock, where rows of stacked pallets stood like quiet sentinels, their plastic wrap twitching gently as the central AC tried to breathe. The world felt heavier now, like the store was pressing down on itself, like it was closing. I checked my phone again, still dead. But this time the screen flickered briefly, just once, and showed a time, 3:01 a.m. That couldn't be right. It had been well past 3 when I first checked the cameras, when I found Mark in the break room, when the intercom said my name, when I saw the thing crawling through the ceiling tiles. I knew that, but I walked into the electronics section and checked one of the digital wall clocks. 3 a.m. exactly. No seconds, no blinking colon, just a frozen number. I moved to the register, tapped the touch screen. 3:05 a.m. Every screen I touched, every system, showed the same. I found the old analog punch clock near the stockroom. The second hand was ticking, but every time it reached the top, it reset. Tick, 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 tick. Click. 3 a.m. I stood still, let the silence bloom around me. It was then that I noticed the music had stopped. Walmart plays background audio constantly. Cheap pop, corporate announcements, special promotions. But now, nothing. Just mechanical silence. Except, not silence. There was a hum beneath it. Not from the lights. Not from the freezers. It was coming from inside the walls. A slow vibration, like something big, far away, turning over in its sleep. And then, for just a second, the store blinked. Not the lights, the space. I was near the customer service counter, and in a flash, I wasn't. I stood in automotive. No movement, no transition. 1 second I was in one place, then another. No footsteps, no memory of walking. The exact same position, different aisle. I turned. The same mirrored shelves from aisle 13 were in front of me again. I spun around. A cooler door, freezer section. I walked backwards, hit a shelf of backpacks, walked forward, found myself beside the garden center entrance. Time wasn't just looping, location was too. The store was no longer following physical rules. I was inside something that was rearranging itself while pretending not to. It let me believe I was moving, but I wasn't. Not really. And at the center of every path, no matter where I turned, aisle 13. It was always just ahead, or just behind, or just on the edge of my vision. And that number, 13, was growing. Every barcode I scanned, every SKU label, every product tag I saw, they all started with 13. It had infected the inventory. It had overwritten reality. I dropped my scanner. It shattered. Didn't matter anymore. I checked my watch. One of those cheap digital ones they let you keep in the back. 3 a.m. Still. I screamed. Not loud. Just enough to see if anything would echo back. It didn't. And in the silence that followed, I heard a faint mechanical chime. The self-checkout voice. Only it wasn't saying a price. It was saying, "Welcome back." I didn't answer the voice. I didn't move toward the self-checkout either. It felt like bait. The voice had no rhythm. It wasn't the usual chipper tone. It was slowed, distorted, like someone dragging a finger across a record. "Welcome back," it had said. But I'd never left. Not really. I walked again. Didn't know why. Just a need to feel motion. Each step pulled at my legs like they were sinking deeper into the floor. Not physically, just felt that way. Like gravity had been tuned to a slightly different frequency here. Everything around me began to look too familiar. Shelves were repeating, products duplicated. Same misplaced sticker, same dented box. Same spilled powder stain under the same mop bucket that had no business being in 5 different aisles. I turned a corner, and there it was again. Aisle 13. The light wasn't flickering anymore. It was strobing. Fast. Like a warning. Or a pulse. I couldn't tell if it was drawing me in or pushing me away. But I knew what it meant now. Rule 4. Don't enter aisle 13 if the light is flickering. I broke it. And now the rule wasn't just a caution. It was a contract. One I'd violated. I stepped forward. Not by choice. But because the ground beneath me pulled. Like a slope I hadn't noticed. And as soon as my foot crossed into the aisle, everything stopped. The lights. The sound. The pressure in my ears. Stillness. So complete it made me dizzy. Like stepping into a vacuum. Aisle 13 stretched impossibly far. Further than the length of the building. The far end vanished into haze. I walked. One step, then another. I didn't count how many. But halfway down, I saw something on the shelf. Not a product, not a box. A folded piece of paper. I picked it up. On it, in handwriting I recognized, my own, were the words, "You should have followed Rule 4. That's all, no explanation, no signature, just a loop. A message from some version of me that had walked this path before. I dropped the note. It landed silently, like paper on water. At the end of the aisle, I saw movement. Not someone walking, just adjusting. Like a mannequin that remembered it was supposed to breathe. It stood at the junction of light and shadow. Same height as me, same clothes, same stance. Its head tilted, a mirror without glass. Then I felt it, something behind me, breathing, shallow, close. I turned. The aisle was gone. I stood in the middle of the sales floor, wide open, but all the lights were off, except one, above a cart. The same one I'd seen before. Its wheels were cracked, handle bent, plastic basket half split, and inside it, my scanner, unbroken, still on, still blinking. I picked it up. The screen showed one line of text. Time of violation, 3 a.m. No date, no shift code. Just that moment, frozen, as if I'd been marked, as if everything after had been a consequence. And I understood then. The rules aren't suggestions, they're defenses, thin lines keeping things in place. And when one breaks, even once, the whole shape of reality begins to unspool. Aisle 13 had always been there, waiting. I was the one who stepped out of place, and now something else had stepped in. I left the aisle, or maybe it let me leave. The scanner still buzzed softly in my hand, that same phrase pulsing on screen. Time of violation, 3 a.m. I made my way back to the security desk, not because I thought I'd find safety there, but because it was the only place in this building that still felt even slightly tethered to reality. The monitors were on, no feeds, just black screens. One by one, they turned on, then off, then on again, and this time, they showed names, just names. Each screen listed a single employee. Some I recognized, some I didn't. Cal, the janitor. Marcy, inventory control. Darren, Isla, Trey. Names that used to float around during training, but whose faces I never remembered seeing. Each name had a timestamp beneath it, and next to that, a simple label. Last seen. The times were all between 2:45 and 3:05 a.m., all on a Sunday. No punch-out. No termination. No report. Just gone. I realized then, no one had quit. No one had been fired. They were taken, swallowed by the pattern, removed when they crossed a line. I checked the files on the backup hard drive. Most of them were corrupted, but one folder remained, hidden in plain sight, named 13 Shift. Inside, grainy footage, still images, screenshots from older cameras. Each showed a figure standing at the edge of aisle 13, some looking in, some stepping through, none looking back. Their faces were wrong, blurry, stretched, or maybe that's how they looked when the footage was captured. Mid-transition, mid-replacement, I backed away from the desk and saw something I hadn't noticed before. Taped under the monitor, a Polaroid, old, faded. It showed 5 employees standing near the break room, smiling, normal. But someone had circled one of them in red ink. Underneath, scribbled in shaky handwriting, "He walked out, but he didn't come back alone." I stared at the circled man. He looked familiar. Hair longer, face younger. But I recognized something in the eyes. It was me, or someone who looked too much like me. I turned away. The intercom clicked. A different voice this time, not a whisper, not a drone, clear, calm, female. It said, "Final inventory incomplete." Then softly, "Employee unverified." A cold wind passed through the building, but no doors opened, no vents triggered, just that feeling again. Like the store itself had exhaled, and I was the dust it was about to sweep away. I woke up in my apartment, on the couch, fully dressed, shoes still on, jacket zipped. The blinds were closed, but light leaked in through the edges. Morning. At least, it looked like morning. My head throbbed, my throat was dry, and for several seconds I couldn't move. like my limbs didn't belong to me yet. I sat up slowly. Everything felt off. My living room was the same, but colder. Still, like no air had moved in here for days. I looked at my hands, still trembling. Under my nails, a dust. Dark, greasy. The kind you find under stockroom shelves that haven't been cleaned in years. I checked my phone. No calls, no messages, but the time read 3 a.m. Again. I blinked, refreshed, closed the app. Same thing. I turned the phone off, walked to the bathroom. The mirror was fogged even though I hadn't showered. I wiped it clean, stared at myself. My face was pale, eyes slightly swollen, jaw clenched. But it wasn't the features that bothered me. It was the expression. I wasn't reacting. I wasn't surprised to see myself like this. I looked prepared, like I'd been waiting to see this reflection for a long time. I checked my clothes. Same uniform, same name tag. Still damp. Not from sweat, from something colder. I smelled faint detergent, but under it, metal, like blood. My scanner was on the counter, but I hadn't brought it home. I picked it up. The screen blinked. Shift end, unconfirmed. I dropped it in the sink, stared at the digital clock beside my bed. 3 a.m. No seconds, just frozen. I stepped outside. The parking lot was empty. No cars, no wind, no sound, like a set waiting for a crew that never came. I walked to the end of the sidewalk and looked down the street. No movement, no birds, no sun, just light without warmth. I went back inside, locked the door, sat on the couch, tried to remember the end of my shift, clocking out, walking to my car, driving home. Nothing, just a feeling of release, but not mine. Something else had let go, or maybe traded places. I turned the TV on. It powered up, but instead of the usual menu, it showed a single frame, security camera footage of aisle 13, frozen, and standing in it, far back, half in shadow, was a figure, wearing my uniform, facing the camera, not moving, not blinking, watching.